Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here, and I've got the Huawei P9 in my hand right now. Been using it for a little over 2 months now, actually. Got that Leica dual camera on the back. Very good design. Gonna go ahead and give my thoughts on the device and do my full review right now, so let's get started. Now, if you didn't know, Huawei is the manufacturer of the Nexus 6P, and the Huawei P9 actually comes in two variants, 32GB and 64GB variant. The 32 gig has 3 gigs of RAM, 64 gig has 4 gigs of RAM, and obviously both of them do have an expandable storage slot for a micro SD card. Now, I first want to talk about design, and right away, I really enjoy this design. It's one of my favorite design devices out right now, actually. It's a full metal unibody design. It does have a fingerprint scanner on the back, and that fingerprint scanner is in just the right spot, so it's very comfortable to reach for me. Down at the bottom of the device, you have your headphone jack, microphone, USB Type-C slot with quick charge, and a single firing speaker. That speaker is just very average quality, and of course it fires out the bottom, so of course at times you'll block it. Cupping your hand helps as well. Also make note of the glass, at least the display glass, how it actually raises up off of the metal just a little bit and gives it a nice look and feel to it as well. On the right side, you have a few premium feeling buttons, 2 volume rockers, and a power button. The power button's a little bit small. However, it's a very good spot for your thumb, so you do get used to it. And also note that small, slight texture on the power button to help you differentiate between the volume rockers. That's a nice added touch. Up at the top, you just have a microphone, and then on the left side is where that SIM card slot, along with that micro SD card slot, is as well. On the back of the P9, you do have your fingerprint scanner along with those Leica dual cameras. Both are actually 12 megapixel cameras. You have a laser autofocus and an LED flash as well. Now, I've been very pleased with that fingerprint scanner on the back. You can go ahead and just drop your finger on it, and essentially it works almost every time. It's very accurate. It's very quick as well. It is on the back. Some of you might not like it. Some of you might. And of course, you can have this display on as well. Set your finger on it. Even if I put just the side of it, usually it detects it as well. And the two I really have are my left and right pointer finger. I don't think I have my middle finger at all. I really have no need for it. Just the 2 pointer fingers, to be completely honest. Finally, on the front of the device, it says Huawei. You'll notice a bit of a chin down at the bottom. It does have soft navigation buttons. You'll see those in a second. And then up at the top is where your 8 megapixel camera and earpiece is as well, along with some sensors. The P9 has a 5.2-inch 1080p IPS LCD display. Yes, it is only 1080p, so a little bit worse than a 1440p display. However, it's a very good 1080p display. I find that Huawei's displays on their devices actually, I do like them a lot. Even though it is LCD, I prefer AMOLED. I still really like this LCD display. And also, if you go into settings, display, you can really customize the color temperature. If you don't like a specific temperature that it's at, you can move this dot around to kind of change it towards a specific color. Also, you can just have defaults of warm, cold, and default as well. In terms of viewing angles and also brightness outside, I've been pleased. You will really have no complaints about this display other than, yes, it could be 1440p, but as a 1080p display, colors look great. It's very sharp. Just overall, a very good display. In terms of battery life, the P9 has a 3000 milliamp hour battery along with quick charge via that USB Type-C slot. In terms of screen on time, average, I get about 4 hours, which is pretty average for me. I do wish it could be a little bit above 4 hours, but some days it does get me through the entire day without a charge. Other days I'm going to have to throw it on the charger real quick. That quick charging is a nice addition. Just overall, I wish battery life was a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and move on to that dual 12 megapixel camera on the back. And you see this little red light. You can't really see it with the naked eye. My camera picks it up though. It is the laser autofocus that is used. And also, just kind of to give you some information about the two lenses, one of them uses the full RGB color spectrum, and the other one's actually just a monochrome camera. I'll show you kind of what a monochrome picture will turn out like as well. And of course, they partnered with Leica for this camera as well. Now here's a quick look at focusing real quick and then snapping a picture. Overall shutter speed's quick. Focusing is quick as well. I really have no complaints in terms of that. Both of those are very solid. You can swipe from this bar right here to get to a pro mode, or you can change your your ISO, your focus, your white balance, all of those good things, which is nice that they are right there. I do wish the text would actually rotate when I'm actually in horizontal mode. It's kind of just a little pain, very small, but then you can hop out of it real quick. You can swipe from the bottom here and you get to a bunch of different modes. And of course there's that monochrome mode. You have HDR, night shot, time lapse, just a bunch of various ones. Monochrome, as you can see, right here. That's what it looks like. And I believe it just uses the one camera, the actual monochrome camera right there. Let's go back to photo. And then I do want to make note that when you do video recording, it does not have a 1080p option actually. So you go to resolution, you can, I'm sorry, not 1080p, I meant 4K, my bad guys. But you'll see it does have 60 frames per second, but absolutely no 4K shooting with a device, I guess, as higher end as this. You would expect it to have 4K shooting, and this one does not. You'll see this icon right here, which is actually for more close-up pictures. It says people or objects within 2 meters to have a shallow depth of field, which is a nice added touch if you like to take close-up pictures. Now let's go ahead and hop into a couple pictures that I have taken. Swipe over. Here's a monochrome one in case you kind of wanted to see what that turned out as. Obviously just no color there. Here's one outside that I took. This is right next to Wrigley Field. Just some of the construction. And in overall, the camera is fantastic. Here's more of a close-up of a flower. Just look at the detail. Really is not grainy at all. Looks great, especially in, obviously, this is very good lighting situations. But this is actually a low-light situation picture that I just took. And it turned out really well. It uses those dual cameras very well for low-light situations. In terms of comparing it to other cameras, I probably prefer the G5 and S7 camera, and this is pretty much on par with an HTC 10 camera, which is another good option as well. So overall, the camera is definitely a high selling point for this device. The P9 has a high silicon Kirin 955 quad-core processor, and as I mentioned previously, 3 or 4 gigabytes of RAM, depending on what model you have. I believe mine is the 3 gigabytes of RAM. Actually, I'm positive it's 3 gigabytes. Anyways, in terms of performance, and high-end gaming performance is very good, and also multitasking as well. I'm going to show that off in just a second, but I do want to make note, I would say this processor is pretty on par with maybe the Snapdragon 810. I don't think it's quite up to where the 820 is at the moment, but let's go ahead and hop in and do a little bit of multitasking. Let's go ahead and, I guess, accidentally open up photos. Let's go ahead and open up calculator as well. Swap between, and in terms of RAM management, it has been very good. I pressed and held on asphalt. It went to app info very smoothly, I should mention. Let's go back to clock. And you'll see things are opening very instantly. You may or may not like this recent apps screen, but yeah, it is what it is. YouTube did need to actually reload. But yeah, in terms of everything, it seems very smooth in terms of multitasking. But in the near future, I'm not exactly sure how well this processor is going to go. You'll see asphalt stayed open in the background. Hold up on higher end games. As I mentioned, the 820 is just going to last a little bit longer because it's obviously a newer processor and just a little bit better. But no real frame rate drops in high end gaming. Multitasking has been great. Performance in general has been very good. And now, other than the camera, I want to move on to something that's extremely important about this device, and that would be the software. It does run Android 6.0 Marshmallow. I'm going to show you that real quick by jumping into settings, going to about phone, and Android version 6.0. And I'm sure throughout this video you've noticed how much different the skin is on top of Android. It does run Emotion UI 4.1 over Android 6.0 Marshmallow. So there's a lot to it. You'll see notifications are different, but I want to talk about the lock screen real quick. And one thing I really like about this device is that the lock screen picture changes every single time, which is a nice addition, of course. You also have a quick step counter, time, date, a quick shortcut to the camera that you can swipe up, and then if you swipe up, it brings you to your lock screen where you can just go ahead and use that finger to unlock. Now, I do want to make note of something that I really dislike. The lock screen I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. You can't swipe down in the pull-down bar. You'll see there are a couple notifications that will show up if your device is kind of off and you haven't seen it on the lock screen, but if you've seen the notification on the lock screen before, it will go away on the lock screen, but still be up in the notification tray. That Instagram notification was on my lock screen, but since I've already seen it, it goes away. And you can't access it at all from the lock screen and go into individual apps, which is a bit of a pain. And I also want to make note that when you have a notification, you can swipe it. You don't tap it, you swipe it. And to swipe it isn't to dismiss it on the lock screen, it's to open it. And that's all you can do. You cannot dismiss notifications from your lock screen whatsoever. You can only swipe to open specific apps up, which in my opinion is counterintuitive and I'm not a big fan of. You can go ahead and tap on these notifications. As usual, they open up the apps and you'll see I have a do not disturb enabled as well. And there was a trash can where you can delete all of them. You can swipe over and you have shortcuts right here. Some quick shortcuts, settings, flashlight, which is a nice addition. I always like having a flashlight right there. Hotspot. So those are nice as well. Just a little bit different how it's managed. And then if you don't have any notifications, it will go straight into those shortcuts, but I have a constant notification, so I can't show that off right now. Now let's talk about a couple of the features that Emotion UI adds to the UI. You can swipe over on your back home recent apps, and you'll see you have just a smaller screen right here, which you can use fully. It's just nice for a one-handed use of the device. Now I'm going to jump into settings, and of course, like I mentioned, you may or may not like this recent apps. It is what it is. That's what they include. Let's go into Smart Assistants. Navigation bar you can customize if you want to add a drop down as well. You can drop down those notifications. So nice that you can customize those. There's a floating dock option where a little bubble will go, or you can customize where it is on your device. One-handed UI I mentioned. You have motion control, flip to mute, pick up, tilt to move icons and widgets. There's also knuckle gestures. So you can go ahead and use your knuckles. Here, let me just tap on it and show you. And you can actually draw a circle or a square, anything, and it's going to take a smart screenshot right there just from what I drew with my knuckle. It works pretty well. I really haven't used it. I prefer to just take a full screenshot and then crop it personally, but some of you might like it. You can also open up apps with letters. So if you want to go ahead and draw a C, it should open up the camera, and it does. Opens up right away. So that's another nice added feature as well to their motion control. Overall settings in general is completely themed. You also notice app icons are more rounded. This is actually the Google Now launcher, as you can see. However, those app icons still get customized. The home launcher that they use doesn't have an app drawer or anything, and I'm really not a big fan of it. I definitely had to install a third-party launcher. To be honest, the skin they have over Android is my least favorite part about this device. It just could be a lot better. It just seems counterintuitive. There's always notifications popping up of apps using a lot of battery. Even if I'm playing a game, it might pop up. It's just overall, I don't really like Emotion UI. It's plain and simple. The lock screen's very counterintuitive. I really wish they would refine the Emotion UI, and this could be a much, much better device with a little bit less of a skin over the device. All right, just wanted to finish up with some final thoughts on the Huawei P9, and overall, very premium feeling device, looking device as well. That camera is a top-notch camera for sure. Lots of software tweaks you can do, and lots of different things you can do with the camera if you like to take pictures. Fingerprint scanner is solid as well. That battery life could be better, like I mentioned previously. But overall, what I really just don't like is that software. That's just a personal thing of mine. You might like the software on it. So just overall, I wish the software was a little bit better and a little more slimmed down, not as intrusive to the Android operating system itself. But yeah, that's about it. So those are my thoughts on the Huawei P9. Hopefully you enjoyed the review video. If you did, click that thumbs up. You can subscribe to me as well. Lots more to come in the near future. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. All links in the description video below. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching.